Cari amici sportivi, I am back. Stevie P is back from vacation, recharged, very bronze from a séjour in Dominican Republic with the family. Guys, I'm really hyped to get back into it. There's a lot going on. Mercato Madness, Milan Weekly podcast coming up on Monday. We're going to unleash a little bit of rage on Milan's Mercato. Hopefully they sign someone before I can get on Monday, or else we're going to unleash some rage. But tonight, guys, it's reserved for the local soccer show. Every 2 weeks, talking grassroots soccer, bringing on fantastic guests to talk about what's going on in local soccer. Montreal, Quebec. We're going to go to Ontario tonight. We went to the United States. We went to Europe a bit. Beautiful. 13th guest, lucky number 13. I'm bringing on Mr. Tommy Bianchi from Markham Soccer, who's going to join us shortly. But I would be really cheating everybody if I don't remind everybody that the show is sponsored by the beautiful people of evangelistasports.com. Guys, I coach with Carmelo. He has the pleasure and the honor of coaching with me. He also is the owner of Evangelista Sport. Guys, please check out Evangelista Sports for all your soccer needs, club needs, whatever you guys need. It's a beautiful establishment. I call it the Mecca of soccer apparel here in Canada because they really have everything. So, guys, thank you to Evangelista Sport. But what we're going to do tonight is talk local soccer, and we're going to bring in Mr. Tommy Bianchi. But, guys, before that, you know what has to happen. It's our famous intro. Let's go. Boom! Tommy Bianchi, thank you very much for being on the show tonight. The local soccer show welcomes Tommy Bianchi, technical director at Markham Soccer. Tommy, how are you tonight?
Good, Stevie. How are you guys? Thank you. First off, thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to this. So yeah, excited.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for giving us your time. We know that the soccer does take up a lot of your nights and weekends. Your family must be saying, again, you're talking about soccer. But I think, like Marcello, El Presidente, who's not with us tonight, guys, dealing with a family issue. But he's already messaging me. I see my phone on the left-hand side. It's vibrating good. Put the intro. He's guiding me, even though he's not here. So shout out to Presidente. Uh, Tommy, we wanted you on. With we had to shuffle some things around, so we have you on finally. We wanted to touch base with someone who's in the beautiful province of Ontario, and not compare Ontario and Quebec, but we know and we can talk for what's happening in Quebec. Let's see what's happening in Ontario. But before we start, tell people who don't know who Tommy Bianchi is. How did you get into soccer? How did you love did you play your beginnings of soccer?
Yeah. So like most people, I started at the local youth club. So I've grown up and played in York Region, which is just north of the city of Toronto. I played competitively in what was back then the OYSL, the Ontario Youth Soccer League, which was the promotion, relegation, standing scores, that environment. And then I was able to obtain a soccer scholarship where I went to school in the U.S., where I completed my Bachelor of Science in Exercise and Sports Science. The goal going south of the border at the time was to see if I could maybe get drafted into the MLS or, do something from there. But, towards the end of my collegiate career, I understood for a Canadian who was a foreigner at the time to play in MLS before Toronto FC or Montreal or Vancouver was going to be almost impossible. And the level's very high, to be fair, but I tried my best. It just wasn't going to be for me to go chase it, play third, fourth division in different countries. I wasn't that interested in that. So I then started, was a graduate assistant. I completed my master's of education as well. And then Started taking coaching courses and decided, maybe I couldn't play at the highest level, but maybe I can coach at a really high level. So that's kind of how my playing turned into my coaching pathway. As I came back to Canada, started working at the Markham Soccer Club, where I was a staff coach for 5 years, working with grassroots, U13 and above, basically a lot of the teams, a lot of programming. And then for the last 8 years, I've been the club head coach and technical director.
Excellent, fantastic. And guys, the local soccer show brings you very educated guests, as you can see. Uh, Tommy, Tommy, I want to touch. I like to do this. I like for the guest to really give us a summary, and then just pick out certain sections of let's say your soccer life. Uh, Back in youth soccer, when you played, you said standings, promotion, relegation. That doesn't exist anymore, especially in Quebec. We have zero standings. We have zero stats. We spoke a little bit earlier. And the people who've seen Milan Weekly podcast and the local soccer show, I wear my sleeve on. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I say it the way it is. I'm not a fan of sugarcoating winning and losing for kids, because I think it's important they learn how to lose so that they can learn how to win, or just don't lose. But just don't lose doesn't exist. You're gonna lose. That's the reality of life. What's your take on that? To how it's changed from when you played youth soccer to today?
So when we played, I guess at the time, the coach was in a situation where he had to win to get promoted or stay at the highest level. Because if you didn't, once your team got knocked down a lower level, before the end of the game, the parents were asking for the cards because they were leaving. So the clubs at the time in Ontario, once you got dropped down a level, there was no relegation. The team just imploded.
Wow, that's good.
So it was either promotion or disbandment. Um, so the idea of either win at all costs or bust became, I guess, an issue at the time, because so many clubs were losing so many teams.
Yeah.
You could have a bad summer and lose five teams.
And
So
just
it
sorry
became
to
stressful.
interrupt you, because it's
Yeah.
very important that we put this into perspective. So for myself, this promotion relegation started at what age, Tommy? Because I know for us it started around the AAA level. That's when you would either make AAA or finish somewhere lower and get probably kicked out of AAA. Is that the same? Can we compare that?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
OYSL was the AAA.
Okay.
So that's exactly how it was. It was 12 spots in all of the province of Ontario, and if your team got knocked down, everyone would leave and go to other OYSL clubs.
Yeah.
So that started at the U13 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, just your take, just so that we can get it out there. Right now, you're involved, technical director at Markham Soccer. When they said, we're not gonna tally up points, we're not gonna tally up any statistics for these kids, what was your reaction?
Yeah, so I was a staff coach at the time when long-term player development really hit Ontario in 2012, when it was, for the most part, fully adopted. And it was a culture shock, to be honest with you, because the parents who typically um, have kids in soccer, they typically had a good soccer or a good sporting, how do I say this, experience or career, even if it was at the amateur level. They grew up playing soccer, they really enjoyed it, they got a lot of value out of it, and therefore they want their kid to get the same value. But their experience of promotion, relegation, and all those things typically was a positive one, and they were expecting a similar experience for their kid. And if and when they're not getting it, they're like, well, this is not what I signed up for. And other sports like basketball, like hockey, which are still pretty much competitive in nature as opposed to development in soccer, we are not losing these kids to other clubs. We're losing them to other sports.
True.
So that's a concept that all across the province, especially in Ontario, over the last 7, 8, 9 years, uh, participation rates have been on decline. Right now,
Wow.
is that because of long-term player development? Maybe yes, maybe no, but that's actually not the point here. We're
Yeah.
we're losing less kids to other clubs or academies. We're losing them to other sports.
Yeah. I have to touch on this
Sure.
again. please, if I'm putting you in a bad spot, by all means, tell me, Steve. We can move on. I'm going to tell you again what I see. I see, because Canada is so heavily focused on soccer, on hockey. Soccer was a good, affordable. I'm not going to call it a second sport, a secondary sport for these. We'll call them hockey kids or double sport athletes to get a different perspective on a new sport. What I'm seeing now, and again, I am fortunate enough, and I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm proud to say it. I'm fortunate enough that I could afford to pay these increased prices. Do you think that soccer is doing itself a disservice by overpricing itself? Could this be some of the decline in the registration fee?
Good. So this is when I grew up. Most of the coaches were typically volunteers in nature, typically, and that volunteer might actually sponsor the team, be the manager. They would do it because maybe they had a kid on the team, and maybe they had a love for the sport, and they were willing to give some of their time to help the community and help the kids play soccer. And he wasn't, or she wasn't, trying to make a living out of this. So the idea here is those scenarios kept costs low. But then what we've also seen in the last 10, 12, 15 years, volunteerism is less and less a thing that people are willing to do within society,
Yes.
right? Volunteers were seen as good, you know, uh, good people in our communities. Now people see as volunteerism. Well, don't you have something else to do with your time, or don't you're not busy enough? You don't have enough work. So volunteerism has changed. That's the first thing, and the next thing, I think people in this day and age are seeing soccer as very transactional. So we provide a service, right? And the service is we teach soccer, right? Just like if I want my windows cleaned, I pay for that service.
Yes, sir.
So people are now paying for soccer as a service. So they see it very transactional, which we understand and we get. So the idea here is soccer is becoming a value proposition, right?
Yeah.
So they've clearly willing to pay more if they're seeing the value and getting more. That's important that you know we interact with our members and understand that. So yes, I am willing to pay more as a member in this day and age, but I want to get more. And when I want to get more is I typically want to have a coach who's not a parent. I typically want to have a coach who has licenses. I typically want to get a coach who has some playing background. I typically want to have a coach, and the criteria grows. Um, you know, these people want to get paid for that, Stephen.
Yeah,
There's nothing
of
wrong
course.
with that too.
And they
But
should.
but the whole idea here is we have to understand that when the coach wants to get paid X, well, we've got to get those resources from somewhere, and that's where it comes on the backs of parents. So when people ask, well, how come soccer's so much more expensive? It's like, well, if you ask and want more, you also have to be prepared to pay more.
Agree, 100%. You touched on a good thing regarding coaches and being, and I fully agree that myself, I'm a volunteer. Uh, Again, just because of I have actually, I know I have a job, I have a career. This is something that I'm perfectly okay with volunteering. Again, I do show a lot of passion, sometimes a little
Yes.
bit over, guys. And please, by the way, guys, I want to put it out there. Tommy knows, guys. My air conditioning is busted, so I'm not glowing here because I've oiled my body for Tommy. This is me sweating for like 3 days, and I'm not even in my basement. I'm safe, so just gonna put that out there. But on a serious note, you touched on coaches getting paid for that, and I agree that with that 100%. What I wanted to touch a little bit on over here too is what's there's so much emphasis on hockey, and I don't know, so I cannot comment on what government programs are available for these hockey kids because hockey is expensive as well. But what I'm thinking of is soccer is becoming very popular. Okay, there is some decline in registrations. That's absolutely normal. Times are getting tougher. What's the province and the government's role in trying to lower these costs for the soccer clubs and the regions, right? Because What I'm thinking of is, we had the Olympics and we had that podium program. They spent a lot of money on all the different Olympic athletes, which they totally deserved, to get results in Vancouver. Now we have soccer as a sport that's picking up. It's getting some traction. Canada on the women's side has been very successful for the longest time. The men are now starting to be successful. Now, how do we keep the men successful? Because we seem to have the women down pat. They continue to be successful. How do we keep the men and the women successful going forward? Do you think that the province and the country have a something in their back pocket that they can provide the clubs for some help and resources?
So the idea here is during COVID, when we were shut down, the restrictions in Ontario were quite severe. Um, and we dealt with it the best that we could. We went to online training. We did everything that we could to keep our players engaged.
Yeah,
Retention was the key for the last 2 years. I use that term a lot. Retention,
yeah,
retention, retain what we have, and then we'll grow when this is over. Right. So now the club's in the growing phase again. And during that time, to be fair to the government, they were helping youth organizations at that time, which, once again, Markham was part of that. So there was some assistance at that point. Um, but now that COVID is over and there's no restrictions in regards to it right now, um, there has not been any other assistance. Now, the role of the government in youth sport to try to lower costs, that's a tricky one, Steve. You know what I mean? Because then where does it end? Skateboarding or arts or karate or MMA. This could be, you know what I mean? Something
yeah.
where it goes down the rabbit hole and you don't know where it ends. So I'm not sure the role of government in subsidizing sport.
Yeah, so maybe I don't want to focus just on soccer. I'm thinking, give these people the opportunity to spend X, but try to give it back to them at the end of the year. There is in Quebec, and I know in Quebec and Canada, there is some sort of, there is some sort of tax break at the end once you register your kid in any youth soccer or any physical activity. I'm thinking, like, let's give them a bit more if
Sure.
possible. And again, I'm not saying clear the cost. We will not never be able to clear the cost, but I think it's the region and the country and the club has a responsibility to, and I don't know if Markham does it, but I'm just speaking here. I don't know which clubs do. But if I put myself as a parent, I want to know where my X goes to. We're not here to talk about money. I don't care how much it costs. It could cost a dollar, it could cost $300, whatever it is. But I want to know where that X is going. Why am I paying X? And this is something that, I see a lack of transparency from the clubs and the province and the region, that they're not telling parents where this money is going. That causes confusion because parents come up to the volunteers after or the paid coaches and saying, but like you said, where's my money going?
Yeah, I can only speak for us, Steve.
Yeah.
We're a non-for-profit at the Markham Soccer Club. We have our annual AGM yearly. The financials are there with the auditors. At any point, if anyone had any questions regarding the finance of it, that could be easily found out. Uh, but yeah, we talk about the government. The cost of fields, Steve. Even grass fields have gone way up.
Yeah.
Turf fields have gone way up. League fees have increased. The levy to the region, the province, the country have gone up. So when you kind of break it down, there's a lot of overhead costs that are now built into registrations that didn't exist when I played. And you know,
Exactly.
God love my parents, right? They probably wouldn't have been able to afford the cost of soccer these days, right? And I would
Yeah.
have missed out on the scholarship and other things.
And I think about that too. Myself, I played as well, highest level AAA. Not a great player, but my dad came from Cosenza, Calabria, very small town.
Yeah,
The first time he had to scratch a check for my AAA registration, I thought he's gonna run the car straight through the straight through the field. He couldn't believe it, right? He's like, and a lot of people say that even in Europe, it's a shock when some people find out how much we play to play soccer, right? So there has to be some kind of I would like to see them get together and talk about different options to lower these costs. Like with the help of sponsors, with the help of the government, get together. They've done it for hockey. They had a problem in hockey. They got together and they found a solution. I think they need to do something like this for soccer before it gets out of control. And you know what's going to happen there, Tommy? The registrations are going to continue to decline, and that's not fair for the kids, because there's kids out there that they can't afford those costs. So that's what, for me, I'm a big advocate of that. I feel like everybody should have the right to play, and it shouldn't be a monetary thing that doesn't allow them to play. They either don't like to play or they play.
Steve, we're on the same page. At our club here, we start them as young as U3 at the recreational level, and we have adult leagues and there's some people in their 70s playing. So we
That's
want them
beautiful.
here for their whole life to be a part of our club, and we don't want finances to be a barrier. And there's been times where the club's been able to step forward and help certain people, and they've been gracious with it. I work with a fantastic executive director, Ken Green, and a very supportive board led by our president, Perry Galenis. So I'm in a great spot. There's no doubt about that. And there's been times they've been able to, help out. But like we said, Steve, those fees from the city for
Yeah,
fields, for turf, the district needs to get their, dollars. So does the
exactly.
province. So does Canada Soccer. And that's on the back of every single player.
Yeah,
Right. And those fees don't come down, they go up. And we
yeah.
pass those fees along to our members, and they ask us where's the money going, and then we do our best to inform them, and they kind of get it. But it's still a tricky subject.
It
There's no
is.
doubt
It's a
about it.
very tricky subject, and I love bringing it up. Like I said, I never want to put people in a bad spot, but I think it's important that we talk about it because it is something that it's going to creep up on everybody. Let's go to something more positive. Markham Soccer, the club, fantastic website, uh, beautiful section on the philosophy of the club. Can you take us through Markham Soccer's philosophy?
Yeah, so we're what we consider a full service club, right? We have an entire recreational stream where it starts them as young as U3 all the way up to 70 plus. We have our grassroots competitive section, which is between what we would consider U8 to U12. Yes, some U7s play with U8, but everything from 8 to 12 we consider grassroots. And then at 13 we have the break. What I mean by the break is in the competitive stream, we have what's considered the OPDL, the Ontario Player Development League, which was the old OYSL, which was the old AAA.
Hmm.
I believe it's PLSQ Juniors, maybe now, Steve, in Quebec.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have competitive levels at the regional level and the district level. So if you ask me, we do comparisons with hockey. The OPDL is AAA, regional level is AA, and then the district level is single A. So those are all levels of competitive soccer. And here at the club, over 4,000 members, we're in a situation where in almost every age and gender, we're able to offer 3 levels of play, which ensures that everyone has a place to play or a level that is appropriate for them.
Amazing. Also on the website again, people are gonna be laughing in the comments because they know that for Milan Weekly Podcast I do not prepare, but for the local soccer show I do. On the website, there's a nice section for coaches, right? And it takes you through what it seems that Markham Soccer is looking for: volunteer coach or a coach who wants to take on a license and so on and so forth. What's your let's say career plan? Example: Steve shows up to Markham Soccer, this good looking handsome guy, and they send him to Tommy, and I tell you, Tommy, I really want to get into soccer. Right now I'm a volunteer, but I want to what's my career path for a coach at Markham Soccer?
It's a good point. There was a time when I was a 20 something and someone gave me a chance, right? So we don't let age or gender or even, to be fair, ability start people or stop people from coaching, because there was a time when I I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying my best at the time, and that's okay. We invest in people. That's the first thing that I would say to anyone, including you, Steve. We invest in people here. Um, we want you to get out of your experience what you want to get from it. So if you tell me, hey, Tommy, I want to get my A license like you got your A license, and I want to coach at these levels, sure, let's work towards that, but with the understanding that it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. There's a 3, 5, 10-year plan to get your A license, right? I would sit with you. How much can you commit to this? Meaning, I used to run sessions all the time, Steve, when I started, good sessions, bad sessions with younger, older kids. I didn't care. I just wanted to be on the field because I wanted to try what I thought was right. And when I had a bad session, I was like, wow, that didn't work. And then when I had a good session, I was like reaffirmed on what I was doing. So the idea here is, what do you want to get out of it? How much are you willing to commit from it? And I will be there with you every step of the way. Your success at a license or a coaching at a certain level is me helping you with this journey.
Amazing. And if we could switch over to the player, uh, I know player, a little player comes to the club, shows talent. You have some experience at the collegiate level. That development plan for them, for that player that shows up at Markham Soccer, uh, what's his development plan?
So the idea here is, we always talk about this, and this is something we've done internally for a long time. Um, Before, Steve, development here in the old structure was very much team centered. What I mean by that is, I need to make sure the team is successful, because if it doesn't, we're going to get relegated and it's going to fold.
Yes.
Right? So that's one approach. And what we found in that approach at the time, sometimes you didn't focus enough on development because I needed to win today. And I can't play out of the back, because if you make a mistake and I get scored on, it's going to kill me. So
Yeah.
we can't necessarily develop. We just have to play for results. Then the other way is, everything's player centered, where don't worry about tactics, don't worry about understanding of the game. Everyone just get better on individual basis. So yes, the players might be a little bit more skilled in nature, but the game sense and the IQ is not there. So what we really have to do here, and we have to do a better job of, and I think we have done a better job, to be fair, we have to marry individuals, the development of every player, as well as the development of the team. So are we player centered? Are we team centered? Well, the truth is, Steve, we focus on both. Because if we do a good job of developing individual players, but the team is not doing well, even if that's best for the kids long term, if those parents leave my club, I don't get to develop them anymore.
No.
So the idea here is, we have to marry individual development, which is so crucial for them long term, but we have to have some team centered approach as well. So individual development with team development as well.
Let's touch a bit on the parents, because that's really always a fantastic topic. There's the overzealous, I want to live the dream that I had through my kid, and the very nonchalant, calm parent, or the in between. How does Markham Soccer address the parents and manage their expectations?
Good. So what I think we've done a better job of recently, in let's say the last 3, 4, 5 years, before every season, indoor and outdoor, we have a parents meeting with every individual team, and we have 54 rep teams here. So I can tell you, it takes me a long time, but me and my executive director make it a priority to be on every parent meeting that we can, and talk to the parents about what our expectations of ourselves is, but the expectations of you as well. And we talk clearly about the program, and then we let them understand that we are going to deliver X. And if we don't deliver X, you're going to hold us accountable. But if you're looking for X plus Y plus Z, you are not going to be happy in this program, and you should potentially look at another program if they're accepted.
Yeah.
So the idea here is, we are not a professional academy, and we don't have aspirations. We're a local youth amateur club. So if you tell me your goal is to play professionally, well, then we redirect those people into Toronto FC. And if they get selected, great. And if they don't,
They come
now,
back to Markham.
the parent has a decision to make, which
Yeah.
we've sent quite a few players into the National Development Center on the girls' side. And on the boys' side, they typically go to Toronto FC. And once again, we have no problem with that. So for those players who want to chase that, they leave our program, and we wish them all the best. But for the players who want to play at a competitive level, then we offer that. But if they want more than what we're offering, well, then this is where the disconnect is. So we're very upfront and we're very, very direct at
Yeah,
times.
you have to be
Parents.
honest.
So
You have to be honest with them. That's for me. I take that very seriously. I want to be honest and transparent with the parents, and I think the clubs like yourselves do a great job of being as transparent as possible. Sometimes just the parent doesn't want to understand,
yeah.
and we
I
move on.
I just a funny story. This is years ago. We had a parent who said, it's my goal for my son to play for Bayern Munich. I was like, well, I guess you're going to have to move to Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah. And he was kind of upset that, not upset, but he was kind of like, oh, aren't you going to talk to an agent to get him
yeah.
to Bayern Munich? It was like, no, I guess you have to move to Germany. That was
But
the response.
he to touch, and I don't know the story, guys. And me and Tommy today is the first time we met, but he was already wrong by saying his goal. What about his kid? Is that his kid's goal?
Yeah.
That when you say
Well,
it's my goal as a parent, well, you can't play with Bayern Munich anymore. Your
no.
kid, he wants to have fun, and I believe that kids, there has to be a happy medium between a little bit of discipline and having things fun. But that's a crazy story. No one imagine, not even here in Quebec, have I ever heard something like that. So if in Quebec you have a story to beat Tommy's about that, please hit us up at the local soccer show. Tommy, we're at the halfway point, and this is where again we thank our sponsors, Evangelista Sport, guys. Tommy and everybody out there in Ontario, they do ship to Ontario if you guys need soccer apparel. They have a Canadian men's national team. Tommy, for the gentleman who wanted his kid to play at Bayern Munich, they have the Bayern Munich, New Jersey, um, and so much more, guys. Again, for also clubs out there, please check them out. Hit them up on all their social medias. They could help your club and furnish jerseys and soccer apparel and tools and coaching material for you guys to use. By all means, guys, if you are in Montreal, please check them out. They are at 6821 Boulevard Saint Laurent here in beautiful Montreal, La Belle Province. Tommy, now we go to the meat and potatoes of the local soccer show. It's the actual grassroots and how we're doing to develop these kids. We talked a little bit before we came on. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room that is CDC. Um, for Quebec, it's been launched. It's been, you know, it's been going on throughout the province. Uh, I see some positives. I see some negatives. Tell us about how Markham Soccer, yourself personally. How do you see the CDC going and taking place, and is it actually in place in Ontario?
Yeah, so we've had long-term player development here for quite some time, Steve. Like I said to you, we're almost, you know, the OPDL launched in 2014, and long-term player development by 2012 was already in place. U8 to U12, there is no standings, no scores. Uh, at U8, they play five-a-side, and then they graduate at U9 and 10 to play seven-a-side, and U11, U12 to play nine-a-side. No standings, no scores. You typically play a lot in your region, but then have the opportunity to play in some memorable events. So there used to be teams who would go to 6, 7 tournaments a year. That's no longer
Yeah,
a thing. There's no more tournaments. They're all festivals. So you go into your day.
festivals, festivals, Tommy, festivals.
So you'll go into your festival, play 2 games on a day. So the entire mentality and philosophy of what was in Ontario has been changed for the last almost a decade. Let's put it that way. And yeah, there was a lot of growing pains with it, Steve, and a lot of people just didn't understand it or didn't want to understand it. And like I said to you, we didn't necessarily lose kids to other clubs or academies because they had to do almost all the same things that we were doing. We lost them to other sports, and that's what I was trying to explain earlier. That for all the benefits and maybe drawbacks of all those things, it wasn't soccer against soccer or club versus club anymore. It was our sport against all these other sports. Growing up, I didn't know anyone who played basketball, Steve. They played soccer or hockey. Now kids are playing basketball. We had kids quit and go into MMA or ultimate frisbee. Like these are real things now. These are
Yes,
real
yes.
things that we never had to contest with before.
No, and it's important. There's other sports coming up that they're doing some great things, and so we have the long term player development uh, in Quebec, and I guess it's the national licensing program. We see certain clubs are getting a national license, some
Yep.
provincial and some regional. Uh, this is obviously the same in Ontario. What I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a little bit of empire building. This I'm speaking for Quebec. You can tell
Sure.
me that if it's the same in Ontario. I'm seeing these clubs concentrate so much on this licensing program. They need to everybody, every coach, every technical has to have the same polo. They need to walk the kids out in a straight line. They need to make sure we're. I feel like they're concentrating so much on the license that we're forgetting the development.
So the idea here, Steve, I guess with the licensing program is we as coaches always used to just try to fix in between the white lines, right? Make the players better, make the team better. I've done my job. The idea with the licensing program is they are trying to improve the entire environment. So all of these things that you've talked about, the idea behind it is if we can fix all of these things and create an environment for everyone to grow in, now this is the way that we can then develop all the players. So before we fix just players, now they're going to think holistically. Let's fix the environment first, the big picture, and then once that's all fixed, then we can get after the players. So it's one of those things where we sometimes were thinking small picture initially, right? Because we care so much about these players because we build those relationships with them. I'm on the field every night and I care a lot about the kids like you do, Steve, and they're real people to us.
Yep.
Where the idea here now is from the national level, they don't have those, let's say, boots on the ground connection because they're obviously governing the whole country. So how can we create an environment for all these clubs to then implement so that we've created parameters that they can then be more successful at player development? So it's kind of one of those things where um, once again, it's a different mentality, it's a different philosophy, and they're just big picture thinkers because they have to be at a national level.
Mhm. No, well taken. What I'm worried about is that we're going to reach a point in this licensing program where everybody will be at a national licensing level, and then we'll start again where we were before, where we're losing players to other clubs and not losing players because we're sending them somewhere to develop, right? So I don't know, and again, I could speak for my club. It's a provincial license. I don't know what Markham has in terms of a license.
We're a national level
You're a
license.
national level license, right? So what I'm seeing here is a lot of kids and a lot of parents, because they're not fully educated in this licensing program, they think that their kid should needs to go to a national license club. What's happening is that those national license club, and I could speak for Quebec, from what I hear now, again, please don't quote me, internet people, don't get mad at me, don't send me hate mail. This is from what I hear. I hear that they're getting too big, Tommy. And because they're getting too big, those coaches that were okay for the size of their club before the licensing program are not able to furnish, and they're not able to take on new people. Do you think these clubs, I'm not saying your club, I'm saying clubs in general, are they becoming too big now, Tom?
So this is what I would say with the licensing that Canada Soccer has rolled out. It's relatively new, the program, right? And the idea here is, to my knowledge, clubs that are at a provincial level, if that club wants to work towards being a national level licensed club, they can then put the infrastructure in place and be reassessed to then potentially be at the national level. So they're not necessarily holding clubs back. They're maybe just not ready for it and they just need to tweak certain things. And then they can push on to those levels if they choose to. But with us here, with the Ontario Player Development League, you must be a national youth licensed club to play at that level. And our club has
Okay.
chose to play at the OPDL level, which is a standards-based league. So we must meet those standards as a club to ensure that our franchise and our licenses is active. So the idea here is one is connected to the other.
Yeah.
for us in Ontario.
No, perfect. I see it here. What I'm just afraid of is that certain clubs at the provincial level will never be able to meet the national team standards. And what's going to happen is those, parents and players, some justfully so, some just because they just don't know enough, will take their kid from that provincial club and move him to a national team level club. And then what happens to the provincial club that can never make those standards?
Well, Stevie, that's the whole point here. When we're thinking about provinces or the country, Canada Soccer, we worry about if kids leave our club. That's a our level problem. For them, that player who moves from one club to the other, well, they're still in our province and they're still in the country. So we still have access to those players. They're still in our sport. So I don't think the provinces or the country care if player X plays for Markham or a club down the road. So,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and again, sorry, maybe I misspoke there. I'm not worried about the player leaving. I'm worried about so many players leaving the provincial club that the provincial club will not no longer exist.
yeah, that yes, that's a concern. Viability, long term for
Not, and I,
clubs.
I agree with you 100%. I don't care if I see a kid and we have this whole moving up and down from the different teams and try to encourage people to move them up and move them down within the category. I love that. It's hard. It's the first time I'm involved in it, and you have to be transparent and truthful, and you actually have to tell some kid you're gonna have more fun if you move to the third group and the group the and so on from first, and someone from the second team. Look, congratulations, you're doing so good. Go into the first team. Does this same process take place in Ontario? Where, let's say, I'll give you the example where my son is at the U9 level. We have three teams, of X number of players, and during the year we're moving them up, down, and we're trying to find a better spot for them where they either, if they were placed in two and they're not having fun or it's too much for them in two, we're going to bring them to three, and vice versa. They're really really good in two. Hey, let's give them a shot with team one. Does this
Yeah,
take place in Ontario too?
yeah. So we have pools of players, right?
Okay.
So the pools of players, we have 45 odd players, and on game day, that's big enough for four rosters. So during the week at training, every single player has access to the same curriculum, the same coaches, the same standards, facilities, all of those things, right? And then we play against all the other clubs, which are of roughly the same size, give or take. Some are smaller than others. Maybe some club only has two. The idea here is on the game day experience, we want to make sure it's like-minded players with like-minded players. So if there's tier one, right? So we want to make sure that we play our tier one kids against someone else's
Someone
tier
else's
one
tier one
kids so
kid.
that on the game day, it's like minded players. If anyone loses a game at grassroots 5-0 or loses the game 5-0, whether you win or lose 5-0, we as the coaches haven't done a good enough job there. Not
I
coaching
agree.
them, but
Yeah,
we've not communicated with the other club on who they were trying to bring. So I always tell
yeah.
my coaches before you're playing club X, have a call with the coach and say, "Are you bringing your, what are you doing? Are we mixing the groups? Do we want to play our best guys against our best? How do you want to do this so that everyone gets a good game day experience?"
Yeah, and that's amazing. And again, thank you very much because you reminded me. I wanted to ask you that. That doesn't happen here in Quebec. I will never. I've never. Again, I've been involved with my son from when he started U4 till now, and it was very now it's competition here at the U9 level. I don't know if it's happened before, but I don't think in Quebec there's a good communication between clubs. That doesn't happen. So what happened with our kids is, we show up, you play a team, and you get smacked 9-1. Now, as much as we're not counting goals, let's face it, everybody, the kids, they know how much they lost. My son's able to tell me, Daddy, we lost 9-1. And at 9-1, what I try to explain to the club and to the parents is that I don't care if I lose the game. If I lose the game 4-3 or 4-2, during the whole X number of minutes of the game, these kids learn that they had a chance. They have a chance to get back into this game. And from that beginning, from that first 9-1, true story, I told the parents, guys, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And now it seems like everything is kind of evening out in terms of what's happening at that level. And then the 3-1 game ends 4-3 for your team, or 3-3. Those kids have lived an experience that at 9-1, after the first 10-15 minutes that it's 5-1, they're not interested in the game anymore. And that's another reason why we have to be careful on how we pool these players together. Uh, that's on the clubs and that's on the coaches. They need to place their teams where they're supposed to be placed, because they see them throughout the winter. They see them at the beginning of the year. And it's also a bit of the region should say, you know what? We're not counting the scores, but this should not be happening on a weekly basis to the team.
And this is where the technical leadership really has to take some accountability. So what I mean by that is, I remember this was years ago. We had one age group, and it wasn't a strong enough age group, Steve, at the time. And we had 3 teams, and at the time they were Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And I saw them. I was like, no. So I called the region. There was a team in Tier 1. I pulled them into Tier 2. Parents went crazy, all those things. But I just told them, I said, we are not at a Tier 1 level. Yeah. To lose 8-0 every game doesn't make sense. So we had 2 teams at Tier 2 and 1 team at Tier 3. Now, did some people leave? Yeah. But did the experience of those kids get better? Yeah, in the short term. And we were able to replenish. And the following year, when the team was better, then we went Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 again. So the idea here is, if you are at a level that you shouldn't be, like I said to you, if you're winning 5-0 every game or losing 5-0 every game, that means you're not at the appropriate level. Or the other thing that you can do is you can call the other coach and communicate with the other, whatever it is. TDs talk all the time here, coaches, and say, right, who are you bringing? Are you bringing your top guys? Yeah. Okay, I'll bring my top guys. And then, then it's, how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're like, I'm mixing my group today.
Yeah.
I'm mixing my group today. Well, then I'll mix my group too. Because I don't want to come beat you 9-0, and I don't want to lose 9-0.
And it's going to benefit no one. Like you said, no one's going to benefit from 9-0. So
yeah. So that does happen at the grassroots level. I want to make that clear. Here in Ontario, people are talking about that daily.
That's amazing. Quebec, take note. For my next question, we talked about it a little bit before. Again, for me, what I saw CDC really focus on the technical, the individual, but there was no build up to what they had to do. I'm not even saying tactically. I'm just saying responsibility wise of where they needed to be on the field. How can we find a happy medium in terms of what we're doing individually and what we can incorporate via the CDC? If the CDC, Soccer Canada, Soccer Ontario, Soccer Quebec, Soccer whatever province you're in, starts talking to guys like you, Tommy, to get some good ideas.
Yeah, so especially here, the methodology we use is the game activity game typically. So we have a constraint-based game. So if our theme for that week is dribbling and running with the ball, they'll come in and we'll set up a small-sided type game with constraints that focuses on dribbling and running with the ball. Then we will have an activity where the activity is against an opponent in a realistic situation that focuses on dribbling and running with the ball. And then we'll go into a final game. Now, the idea is with the initial constraint-based game, then the activity, hopefully now in the final game, all of that should come out in the game.
Yes.
This focuses a lot on gameplay, decision-making, for sure. Now, what we also find is some players are missing some building blocks. So sometimes you also have to work on technique before skill. Technique without opposition is kind of frowned upon in this day and age, but it still serves a purpose. Skill against opposition, and that can help those building blocks. So sometimes we'll use the game activity game, and sometimes we will use a flow session, which will work on technique, skill, something possession related, and then the final game. So it's the methodology that you would use, Steve, depending on where those players are. Now, if you tell me I'm only going to do technique against a ball in a wall, I would say no. that's too far one way. And
Yeah.
if all you did was play small-sided games, I would say, nope, that's too far the other way. We've got to marry the development of the team with the development of every player. And that's what we've really done a better job of recently.
Yeah. Thank you again. We're thanking Tommy, Tommy Bianchi from Markham Soccer, guys. If you've just joined us or you're going to be listening to this while you're running at the gym or while you're in between shows, guys, Tommy Bianchi is a technical director at Markham Soccer, talking with us here at the local soccer show. We're almost an hour in, and I'm pretty sure, Tommy, we have this good vibe. We can go in 2 hours. So in in an effort to conserve your time, I want to touch on something that you said earlier. When you started, you didn't have this framework, this spine of drills and stuff that's now, let's face it, it's being handed to the coaches. You had to come up with your session, and you knew when you had a bad session and when you had a good session. Is this doing a disservice to, let's say, a coach right now, that he's being given the drills and doesn't have to think on the fly or prepare himself for a practice? Or the coach or the volunteer, are we doing them a disservice by just spoon feeding them these drills?
Yeah. So like I said, when I started coaching, I had a good university coach. So I would try to practice and do some of the stuff that he taught me at university. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it was age and stage inappropriate.
Yeah.
But I had to learn it the hard way because I didn't have much guidance as a young coach. So the idea now with the curriculum that's given to the coaches and developed and given, it's kind of like, let's think of it this way. At school, grade 1 math, there is a curriculum. And that curriculum is given to all of the teachers who have roughly the same designation. And then they deliver that curriculum. And it gives what I would consider a very balanced and very similar experience for all of the people. All of the students get roughly the same experience. So now in Ontario, the way that we deliver sessions and the curriculum that's age and stage appropriate, whether you're at my club or a club down the road, the methodology and the approach and the overall experience for that child will be roughly the same. So we've maybe hurt our best coaches who could do a little bit more, but maybe we've helped some of those lower coaches because we've standardized what we've wanted to teach them. So it's kind of one of those things where, they don't want to have one-off experiences anymore. If you had a really, really, really good teacher growing up and you became very intelligent and did great things, awesome. But what about if you didn't have a good teacher? Now what, you're going to be, how do I say this, less prepared for the real world? How can we create a curriculum-based approach that is standardized for all of our members and for all of our players? So the curriculum that's be given out is with that mindset.
Understood. Tommy, we're at 55 minutes. It's time for quick fire answers. So I'm going to ask you some quick questions, and you give me some quick fire answer. We're going to have a good time with this one. Tommy, your favorite league?
So I'm a big Serie A and EPL guy, right?
Okay.
So Serie A, EPL, I've grown up watching both of those. So yeah, both the leagues, 100%. I'm good with either.
Okay. So favorite team in Serie A and favorite team in the EPL?
So AS Roma, for sure.
We picked a good week, ladies and gentlemen. La Gioia is even represented on the local soccer show. So good guess, Marcello.
Yeah. So AS Roma, and then in the EPL, it's been Liverpool.
Okay. Yeah. Your mentor?
So mentor, I had two coaches that I grew up playing for. Carmi Sacco was one, and Dave Bennings the other. Shout out! They're technical directors at other clubs right now. So
hey, hold on, Tommy. Yeah. Technical directors at other clubs, yes. Or future guests on the local soccer show.
You know what? That's a good point, Stevie. I think I can arrange that. It's always really good to see them on the fields, playing for them and now playing against them, and It's always great when you beat them every once in a while. Give them the
Yeah,
handshake. Thanks a lot. So, but it's a great experience. So those two would be my mentors.
amazing. And a favorite player growing up.
So growing up, it was always Totti and De Rossi, right? But now
Yeah,
more so it's been Zaniolo at
yeah,
Roma. I would hate if he went to Juve, but
yeah.
I don't know if he will. We'll see now.
Yeah, that's gonna be. It's a good mercato for Roma. They're doing some great things, but losing Zaniolo might be a little bit of a sour ending for the ending of the mercato. So let's see what happens there. Uh, Final question, probably the most important question of the whole show. Tommy sits down after a long day on the field. We have a nice plate of pasta. That pasta is penne rigati or penne lisci?
Penelici, 100%.
Oh my God, Tommy, no. Penne lisci is like goldfish, man. The sauce doesn't stay on the penne.
Oh
Tommy,
man,
you were doing great up until the 57-minute mark, my friend.
my
All
mom
jokes
makes a great
aside,
liscia, man.
yeah. All jokes aside, Tommy, thank you very much. Tommy Bianchi from Markham Soccer, taking an hour of his time to talk local soccer with us at the local soccer show. Tommy, for people that need to reach you or get in touch with you or in the Markham area or interested in picking your brain about stuff, how could they reach you?
My social is up. It's at Mr. Tommy underscore B, and Markham Soccer Club socials, or the Markham Soccer Club website. All my contact info is on there. I'd love to talk soccer or whatever anyone needs. So
Excellent. Tommy, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to say bye to these fantastic people listening, and we'll talk before I let you go. So give me a second. Tommy Bianchi, Technical Director for Markham Soccer. Thank you so much, my friend. It's a pleasure meeting you, and I will surely be picking your brain.
thank you, Stevie. Take care. Ciao.
Guys, another great guest, the local soccer show. Again, a special thank you to Evangelista Sports. Please, guys, get anything that you need in terms of soccer apparel at Evangelista Sport. Check them out. Website, they do ship everywhere. Thank you again. Thank you to Presidente. Peace to everybody, guys. Steve's back Monday, 9 p.m. Check out Milan Weekly Podcast. Depending on what Milan does, I'm either going to unleash some rage or it's going to be a really happy Monday. Practice. My U9s who are going to be listening Friday and Saturday. Let's go, guys. Take it easy. Forza Milan. And guys, spread the word. Local soccer show every Thursday. You want a guest on? Hit us up. We'll get him. We'll put him on. Take it easy, everybody. Good night. Stevie P. He says bye bye.